tonight on NewsCenter. Seoul and its allies have been discussing ways to strengthen sanctions on Pyongyang in the event of additional strategic provocations by North Korea. That's according to a senior government official in South Korea. Following North Korea's SLBM test firing over the weekend, South Korea is gearing up to deploy bigger submarines with greater capabilities to counter the North's growing submarine threats. And Korea's largest container carrier, Hanjin Shipping, submits application to creditors to restructure its debt with them, becoming the latest among Korean liners recasting their debt. NewsCenter begins right now. It's 9 in Washington, 2 in London, and 10 on a Monday night here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to our viewers all across the globe. You're watching Arirang News Center. Now, South Korea, the U.S., Japan, and other related countries have been discussing tougher sanctions on North Korea in case Pyongyang does go ahead with additional strategic provocations. Of course, that includes a fifth nuclear test. That's according to a high-level government official in Seoul, amid increasing speculations that the reclusive state is preparing an underground nuclear test. Arirang's Kwon So-ah starts us off tonight.
South Korea, the U.S., and most likely other related countries such as Japan are readying themselves for a possible fifth nuclear test by North Korea. This, according to a high-ranking official at Seoul's foreign ministry, who said Monday that Seoul and Washington, respectively, have put considerable efforts into examining additional sanctions on top of those that took effect in early March, after Pyongyang conducted its fourth nuclear test in January. The official said, although the UN Security Council's latest resolution is extremely powerful, there is consensus among related countries that if there are any loopholes, they should be blocked. With Pyongyang so far ignoring all warnings and punishments, including cargo inspections, travel bans, economic and financial sanctions, some experts say China should take the next step, such as severing oil exports that would severely hurt the North's overall economy. While that would be a huge leap for North Korea's closest ally, Beijing is showing efforts in pressuring the regime. On Monday, China's foreign ministry urged Pyongyang to abide by the UNSC resolution and refrain from any action that escalates tension. Seoul's foreign ministry on the same day assessed Beijing as having complied to its role when it, along with the other 14 UN Security Council members, swiftly approved of a press statement against the North's recent submarine-launched ballistic missile test. It says North Korea's missile test on Saturday was a clear violation of the Council's resolutions which ban Pyongyang from any type of ballistic missile tests, and that it will continue to closely monitor the situation and take further significant measures in line with its previously expressed determination. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
South Korea and the U.S. are not taking North Korea's proposal that it's ready to halt its nuclear tests if Seoul and Washington suspend its joint annual military exercises. According to our Connie Kim, both countries are calling on Pyongyang to denuclearize and halt additional provocations with no conditions attached.
South Korea called North Korea's proposal on halting the annual South Korea-U.S. military exercises in exchange for ceasing nuclear tests absurd. This comes as North Korean Foreign Minister Lee Sang-hwa, during an interview with the Associated Press over the weekend, said that Pyongyang is ready to halt nuclear tests if Seoul and Washington stop the joint drills. Seoul's Unification Ministry said the North Korean diplomat's comments are intended to divert attention from further North Korea sanctions.
North Korean Foreign Minister Lee Sang-hwa's comments are an attempt to shift responsibility to Seoul and Washington. Pyongyang's intention seems to be on diverting attention from discussions on North Korea sanctions.
This year's joint exercise is the largest to date, which the North views as a rehearsal for war. U.S. President Barack Obama also sent a consistent message to the North, saying Washington will be prepared to hold conversations if Pyongyang shows it is serious about denuclearization. The U.S. president also urged China, North Korea's closest ally, to increase pressure on the North and said the level of cooperation between Washington and Beijing has not reached optimum levels. If the North does conduct a fifth nuclear test, Washington is expected to push for the blocking of oil exports to the North, a measure that Beijing has been consistently opposed to. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Well, as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, North Korea's firing of a submarine-launched ballistic missile over the weekend sparked sharp condemnation and concern from officials all around the globe. What kind of a message is North Korea trying to send to the rest of the world, and does the latest SLBM launch signal that the North will soon conduct a nuclear test? Well, our national defense correspondent Kim Yuna is live in the studio with me to discuss some of these key issues. Hyun-bin, first and foremost, what do we know about the North's latest SLBM launch test firing?
Well, good evening, Kanyang. The SLBM was fired near Shimpo, Hanggyeongnam province on Saturday, and it was fired from a 2,000-ton submarine. And South Korean military officials believe the missile's rocket booster did ignite, but it was only in the air for a short time and flew only 30 kilometers. Now, Joint Chiefs of Staff said the flight test may have been a failure because the flight distance fell far short of the SLBM range of 300 kilometers. And experts have noted that SLBMs need to be tested numerous times in order to refine the launches, especially given the complexity of the technology involved. Now, the fact that the missile was able to ignite is considered huge progress for the North, and some say it's just a matter of time before the regime is capable of increasing its range. Now, they also note that North Korea could start developing a 3,000-ton submarine capable of firing several SLBMs with a range of 2,000 kilometers.
North Korea claims that it could even hit mainland U.S. with its missiles. But really, how much of a threat does this SLBM pose for the United States, and what is it capable of doing?
Like I mentioned earlier, the latest missiles believed to be fired from a 2,000-ton submarine, which is only capable of firing short-range ballistic missiles. But Kanyang experts do point out that submarines are very deadly in covert operations because they can fire ballistic missiles pretty much undetected.
Submarines that carry SLBMs are very hard to detect. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, so they are very deadly. Once the North completes development, it's expected the SLBM will have a range of 3,000 kilometers, which could potentially reach the U.S.'s Pacific Fleet.
Well, a U.S. official has been quoted by the global media as saying that North Korea's sub-launch capability has gone from a joke to something very serious. How serious is the threat for the rest of the world, and especially the United States?
Well, as you can imagine, the U.S. has its own missile defense system called the Ground-Based Interceptor. Now, what it does is it could intercept an intercontinental ballistic missile in orbit, and before it tries to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, that's where it intercepts it. But some experts cautiously point out that it's not foolproof, and it could actually miss.
The U.S. is equipped with a missile defense system that's considered a low-level line of defense. In Alaska and California, there are around 30 ground-based interceptors. The U.S. can use them against a North Korean ICBM, but it has only one chance. SLBMs differ because they can be fired at short range, up close to the U.S. mainland from a submarine that may not be detected, so it becomes a greater threat.
U.S. is also equipped with low and mid-level missile defenses like its Patriot missiles and terminal high-altitude area defense system, but their purpose is to protect overseas American troops. Now, they could deploy these systems, but would have to produce mass numbers of them in order to cover the whole continental United States.
There's also a growing concern in the international community that North Korea may conduct another nuclear test, its fifth nuclear test, very soon, shortly. And the window of time that it could, in fact, carry out that test began over the weekend. Why now?
Well, you're right, Kanyang, and the South Korean military is on high alert. That's because many experts believe that North Korea could conduct its fifth nuclear test on the anniversary of the establishment of its People's Army, which is today, or in the coming days before the Workers' Party Congress, which is scheduled for early May. Let's take a closer look. South Korea's military is on high alert, according to its defense ministry spokesman on Monday.
We are currently preparing for a possible nuclear test by the North. Today is the anniversary of the establishment of North Korea's People's Army, so we are preparing for possible provocations.
Satellite imagery shows that most of the vehicles at the Punggye-ri nuclear site have been evacuated, similar to when the North conducted its fourth nuclear test in January. North Korea claimed that it has successfully conducted a hydrogen bomb test earlier this year, and many experts believe it possible that the regime will conduct a miniaturized nuclear warhead test this time around.
North Korea's previous 4 nuclear tests were to develop nukes, while the 5th is expected to be a fully developed warhead.
South Korea's military is looking for any signs of an imminent nuclear test from the North, saying that the regime is capable of conducting one at the push of a button. Many experts believe North Korea's 5th nuclear test could take place before the Workers' Party Congress in early May, which will be held for the first time in more than 3.5 decades.
Well, what do you know? North Korea may feel high on its end because of this SLBM, quote, achievement. But it appears that South Korea, the U.S., Japan and its allies have the upper hand because it has chosen to go with a tactic of wait-and-see approach of how the sanctions play out and build power in numbers. Of course, Japan is on board, European countries, Southeast Asian neighbors, and even China now.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Hyun-bin, for that thorough coverage.
Thank you.
Now, in the nation's political realm, Korea's main political parties are focused on the next steps after the April 13th general elections in order to meet the public's needs and demands. Our Park Ji-won has the latest from the parliament.
Ruling Three Party's 14 veteran lawmakers gathered to discuss ways to unite the Conservative Party after defeat in the general elections. During their one-hour luncheon presided over by Floor Leader Won Yu-chul on Monday, the lawmakers stressed the need to face the current crisis through self-reflection and revamp the party. During the party's one-day workshop scheduled for Tuesday, opinions of party members are expected to be solicited regarding establishing temporary party leadership until the new assembly at the end of next May. Newly elected lawmakers will also participate in the event. The leadership of the main opposition Minju Party of Korea visited Gwangju, the biggest city in southwestern Jeollado province, on Monday for the first time since the general election. The Liberal Party witnessed a crushing defeat in their traditional stronghold despite a positive performance in the Seoul metropolitan areas. The party's interim leader Kim Jong-in and the party's floor leader Lee Jong-geul hope to regain the trust of locals, most of whom voted for the minor People's Party in the election. They said they will continue efforts to bring Samsung Electronics' future car plant to the region. However, all 13 of the city's municipal assembly members, who are also party members, boycotted a meeting with Kim, indicating the city's deep dissatisfaction with current party leadership. Meanwhile, the centrist People's Party decided to maintain its two top leadership structure of former presidential candidate An Chol-soo and former Justice Minister and sixth-term lawmaker Chun Jung-bae until a party convention, which was originally scheduled in July but postponed to December. The party said it will now focus on recruiting more talent for local elections in 2018. The splinter party also plans to select and endorse new floor leadership during a two-day party workshop beginning Tuesday. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
A prolonged slump in global crude prices has been good for oil-related industries, but bad news for others. Among hardest hit are Korea's shipbuilding giants, which experienced eye-watering losses on the back of canceled orders and delayed construction. Our Kim Min-ji has more on the industrial winners and losers in 2016.
Korea's big three shipbuilders, namely Hyundai Heavy Industries, Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering, and Samsung Heavy Industries, have been in choppy water, so to speak, struggling to stay afloat amid falling orders as well as the rise of Chinese competition. Last year, they posted a combined loss of roughly $7 billion and as a result have been downsizing their workforce. Hyundai is expected to lay off about 3,000 people this year after letting go of some 1,300 workers last year. More than 100 of its subcontractors also closed down last year. Samsung has also cut almost 30 executive-level workers since last September, while Daewoo is accepting voluntary resignations among some 300 high-level employees. 16 of Daewoo's subcontractors have closed down since the end of last year, resulting in the loss of 3,400 jobs. All in all, some 15,000 people were laid off last year, and that figure is set to increase this year once the shipbuilders complete construction of offshore facilities scheduled to begin delivery next year. But it's a different story for the oil refining and petrochemical industries, which have been able to benefit from low global oil prices and increased refinement margins. Workers have also received performance-based incentives amounting to between 700% and 800% of their monthly wages.
With global oil prices decreasing by more than half, there's been cancellations of offshore plants and no new orders. On the other hand, oil-related industries have been doing well thanks to increased demand and refining margins. The situation may get better for shipyards if oil prices rise to about $60 a barrel, but that's not expected this year.
The Korean government on Tuesday will announce a financing plan for industries that urgently need to be restructured, with priority given to shipping and shipbuilding. In regards to this, Korea's finance minister Yoo Il-ho says efforts by the companies and creditors need to come first, and that the government should do its part to support them. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, stay in line. Hanjin Shipping, Korea's largest container carrier, is looking to hand over management control to its creditors. The decision comes as it struggles to deal with its piling debts and growing financial woes brought on by the slump in the global shipping industry. Amid the crisis, information has emerged that a former top executive may have jumped ship ahead of Hanjin's restructuring plan to cash in millions. Oh Soo-young has more.
Hanjin Shipping has applied for joint management, entrusting corporate control to its creditors. This comes as part of a self-rescue plan submitted to the Korea Development Bank on Monday. Along with the company's board of creditors, the KDB will review the plans for normalization and decide this week whether to issue an approval. This comes after Hanjin Group Chairman Cho Yang-ho decided last Friday to relinquish his control as part of restructuring efforts due to the company's worsening financial troubles. Hanjin's debt stands at around $4.9 billion, and it needs to cough up more than $400 million worth of maturing debts in the first half of this year. The company's sinking finances are reflected in its shares, which have declined more than 60% in the last 6 months. Meanwhile, former chairwoman Choi Eun-young remains under fire for offloading her shares in the company before the self-rescue plan was announced. Financial authorities suspect she was tipped off through undisclosed information, which is a violation of capital market norms. Earlier this month, Choi and 2 of her daughters had sold more than 960,000 shares in the company, in a span of just 2 weeks. This saved them losses of at least $435,000, according to the Financial Supervisory Commission. The financial regulator says it plans to launch an investigation into the case to confirm whether Choi's divestment was illegal insider trading. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Well, we all know there's nothing quite like shopping from the comfort of your own home couch. You see a dress or a watch worn by a celebrity in a TV drama or movie. Search online to find out where you can buy one at a good price. Now then, how about this? You get the specifics of a product that you like on TV or on your smartphone screen as you watch your favorite show, and just by a click of a button, you make the purchase and it's shipped right to your home. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports on this rising trend in Tcommerce and the challenges businesses face to make this a reality.
Broadcasters, venture firms, and local experts gather for a seminar on Tcommerce, which enables real-time buying and selling of products through interactive television. The event focused on identifying current issues and obstacles that are slowing down the development of this rising commerce platform. Despite Korea being one of the most wired countries in the world, the local Tcommerce industry is still in its infant stages, mainly due to the country's regulations on PPLs, or product placements or indirect advertising in the media.
Compared to the biggest PPL market like the US and the one that's rapidly growing in China, regulation on indirect advertising in Korea are still strict, which has made first movers in the field hesitant to invest and develop Tcommerce technology like artificial intelligence on data gathering.
The CEO estimates that the Korean PPL market currently stands at $35 million. The local market is nowhere near the US, which stands at around $3 billion. Experts say, however, Korean businesses are not too late to join the bandwagon, saying they have a comparative advantage if they utilize the Korean wave to export contents and PPL abroad.
It's important that related industries and the government come together so that local firms can increasingly utilize the cultural and technological advantages the country has that could help establish an ideal business ecosystem for Tcommerce. For the government, developing Tcommerce is a perfect example of a platform that could help achieve its creative economy policy.
The Korea Communications Commission and the Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning says that based on their discussions during the seminar, efforts will be made to ease regulations as well as improve guidelines to help boost the new business model. Kim Yuna, Arirang News.
Well, shifting our focus, joining the ranks of Olympic champion Kim Yuna and Hallyu actor Lee Min-ho, two-time Olympic speed skating champion Lee Sang-hwa has been appointed an honorary ambassador for the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games. Now, her duties will include promoting the Games through events arranged by the organizing committee and through social media activities. The 27-year-old long-track speed skater won gold in the 500-meter event both in 2010 and 2014 and also holds the world record for that distance. Lee will be looking to complete her gold medal hat trick at Pyeongchang in 2 years' time. The petals of Korea's well-known cherry blossoms have all fallen to the ground, but tulips are now in full bloom. The second wave of spring flowers in this country. Our Kim Yuna went out to check out the splendid red, yellow, purple, and pink herself. Red, yellow, purple, and pink. Over 300 varieties of tulips have revealed their colors and beauty here in Taean. The brisk wind hasn't deterred locals and tourists who are busy taking pictures of the flowers, including plenty of selfies.
It's great to see such a variety of tulips in one place, and I had quality time here with my wife, daughter, and granddaughter.
These tulips are so pretty. I took lots of pictures today to capture the moment.
Visitors can walk through the gardens as colorful tulips dance along with the wind. The theme of this year's Tulip Festival is the Garden of Artists. More than 1 million tulips are blooming in harmony, creating a beautiful panorama. These tulips form images of famous artworks such as Mona Lisa and well-known figures like Marilyn Monroe. After sunset, tulips are lit by 6 million LED lights, creating a romantic atmosphere. Taean Tulip Festival was selected as one of the world's top 5 tulip festivals last year and recognized for its advanced planting technique. And this year, Taean received a variety of flowers from Holland, which are on display in the Netherlands exhibition. Festival organizer Han Pyeong-hee says he expects more tourists to visit this year.
More than 320,000 tourists visited Taean Tulip Festival last year, creating an economic impact of around $35 million. This year, we expect more than 400,000 to come visit, so more economic effect is expected.
Taean Tulip Festival runs from April the 16th to May the 8th, but the best time to see the tulips is from the last week of April to early May. Kim Yuna, Arirang News, Taean. April here in Korea is a month dedicated to many different things, ranging from spring flowers to commemorating pro-democracy movements. But it's also a month devoted to promoting positive employment outcomes for people with disabilities by encouraging everyone to recognize the value and talent they bring to the workplace. Tonight, our Lee Ji-won sheds light on the disability employment scene here in this country, because at work, it's what people can do that matters.
What comes to mind when you think of April? Cherry blossom, spring, Arbor Day? There's a lot happening during this month of revival when flowers bloom. But in Korea, April is also dedicated to helping disabled people find work. This is a cafe in southern Seoul where all its staff members are busy working. The difference is all of them have intellectual disabilities.
주로 맡은 업무는 호스기 하는 것과 커피 만드는 것과 뭐 아무 음료 만드는 것입니다.
저는 보조요 시험을 좀 하고 싶거든요. 발열 시험밖에 안 되니까 좀 아쉬워요.
The cafe is one of the few establishments to employ workers with disabilities, let alone offer them stable year-long contracts. The employees at this cafe are lucky enough to have both, but that's not the case for the majority of their peers. And in order to improve the employment situation for people with disabilities, the Korean government enacted a law on employment promotion and vocational rehabilitation for disabled persons in 1990. This law compels public institutions and other state organizations to ensure that at least 3% of their staff is made up of people with disabilities, and for private firms, at least 2.7%. There are currently about 2.5 million people with disabilities in Korea, which takes up about 5% of the country's total population. But the labor force participation rate of people with disabilities stands at only 37%, which is significantly lower than that of the able-bodied population. Moreover, the unemployment rate among people with disabilities stands at 6.6%, which is almost double the national rate.
The first problem is the misperception that people with disabilities would simply be grateful for a chance to work, even if compensation is the minimum wage.
One counseling center that deals with employment problems for people with disabilities receives an average of 3 to 4 calls or visits a day.
Most of the people that call us are people who got fired for no special reason. Generally, they're the first ones to get fired when the economy is not in good shape.
To tackle this situation, many developed countries established social enterprises from the 1970s. In the UK, for instance, there are currently about 68,000 such enterprises that account for more than 5% of the country's GDP.
Other countries get financial support from their governments to establish social enterprises and employ people with disabilities. Korea has also started on these policies, but they still need to be developed further.
Ridrick is one of Korea's social enterprises that hires people with severe disabilities. And in order to improve the working conditions for its staff, the firm also provides various therapies, education, and activities that help relieve stress and enjoy the work.
운영 가는 데는 생각 없는데 그냥 여기 계속 이해하고 싶고 그냥 놀고 이해하고 싶고 그만밖에 없어요.
The firm is established to support employment of people with severe disabilities, and since the firm creates profit, it can be sustained on its own. And this is beneficial for both the government and society in general because this type of enterprise not only fulfills social responsibilities, but also contributes to the economy.
Kim added that he believes social enterprises can grow to become a significant solution in creating quality jobs for people with disabilities. And for that reason, they should be expanded in number. For more quality jobs to be offered to people with disabilities, experts say development in government policies and, most importantly, changes in people's perceptions on disabilities are needed. 이지원, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, following up on the disaster or earthquake hit Japan, the Japanese government has designated the situation in Kumamoto Prefecture as extremely severe after a series of fatal quakes there. Bruce Harrison is live in the studio with me. Now, Bruce, this means now Kumamoto will get more money to help in its recovery efforts.
Exactly, Kanyang. The central government had to quickly assess the damage there, and it did decide, as you said, that this was an extremely severe situation. According to the Asahi Shimbun, the central government will now pay for 90% of the recovery cost. The government estimates damage at more than $4 billion. Potential dangers still exist, too, including unsound structures.
Such stone walls are the most dangerous as they have already collapsed. And if we don't pay attention during our work, they might easily lead to further danger.
The Kumamoto government has also designated more than 4,000 homes unsafe. Assigned thousands of displaced people will have to wait longer to return home. U.S. President Barack Obama has approved the deployment of up to 250 additional Special Forces soldiers to Syria. The U.S. already has 50 soldiers there, training local forces to fight Islamic State. The president announced the expansion in Germany on Monday at the end of a 6-day foreign tour. He says fresh troops will build on momentum from Special Forces already on the ground.
A small number of American Special Operations forces are already on the ground in Syria, and their expertise has been critical as local forces have driven ISIL out of key areas.
Obama was speaking in Hanover, Germany, where he discussed a U.S.-EU free trade deal with Chancellor Angela Merkel, as well as the refugee crisis.
Well, Bruce, the troop expansion coincides with Obama's latest efforts to get more support from its European allies.
Definitely. And when he was speaking there in Hanover, he mentioned how important it is for the U.S. to have the support of other allies in the air campaigns, as well as helping train these local forces.
Right, and this fresh off a stop to the UK, where he urged voters to stay in the European Union and remain close to Britain's allies to help fight terrorism.
Yeah, everyone coming together, staying strong in a unified EU, he says, is going to help in that fight.
All right, Bruce, thank you so much for that coverage tonight.
No problem.
Well, the Korean Peninsula was blanketed by severe levels of dust over the weekend. Let's head straight over to the Weather Center to check out what the weather has in store for us for the rest of this week. Now, Jihan, I had to suffer all weekend from itchy eyes and terribly sore throat.
Oh, yes, a lot of people did. And did you know that we've only had 6 days of clean air this month? Westerly winds carrying yellow dust from outside the country and stagnant airflow are considered to be the main factors.
Well, 6 days, that's awfully a short period of time. But what about the remainder of this week?
Well, compared to the weekend, levels dropped slightly today, but still an expected dust to remain at relatively high levels nationwide tomorrow. But air quality should improve in the southern regions as a rainy system is forecast to hit Jeju and southern coastal regions starting tomorrow evening, and it's likely to linger until midweek. And as for the temperatures, the high in Seoul rose to 25.3 degrees Celsius this afternoon, and tomorrow is going to be even warmer, soaring to 27, so it's going to feel like early summer in most western regions. On that note, let's move on to tomorrow's temperature readings. Daily low here in Seoul and Busan will start out at 13 degrees Celsius and 15 for Jeju. And as for the daily highs, Seoul will see a high of 27, while Busan and Jeju will top out at 22 and 20 degrees Celsius. That's Korea for you, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, I say that is way too beautiful to eat. That is our broadcast on this Monday night. I'm Moon Gan-young. Thank you, as always, for staying with us. We hope to see you right back here same time tomorrow on NewsCenter.